So, hey, it's 1 minute after 6. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Meredith, are you ready to rock and roll?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Mike and I are here live, and I got Dwight and Kate on supervision. And additions or deletions to the agenda. I know you had something, Dwight, you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, if we have a little bit of time, I just have a little bit of update on the electric bus situation.
Okay, is it shocking news?
No, I think it's good news, but we'll see.
Okay, so why don't we do that?
Mike.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We'll put it under old business.
Perfect.
Okay, and then I also, I got an email today at 4:08 p.m. From D. Bliss, that's the tech guy, right?
Derek, yes.
Derek. So he had a question about, with Cynthia at Leading Edge, so I'm hopefully Chad will show up
I
and
think
know.
he's about to show up right now.
Okay, so we'll know what that's about. So I'm gonna add that under old business too, or actually I'll just add it under website update, right? Okay. Email from Derek. Hey Chad, did you see the email from Derek about at 4 o'clock this afternoon?
I saw it. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. Just
Okay.
opening up all the school board stuff.
We're gonna add that under website update under old business, okay? Okay,
Yep, sounds good.
any other additions or deletions? Okay, hearing none, members of the public, I see a couple. I guess I can start with, Nicole, you have anything for us? Or Dana?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Nicole, did you have anything? You gotta unmute yourself. You're unmuted now. Can she not hear us? Nicole, can you hear us? Wave your hand or,
I don't see her anymore. Where did she go?
well, isn't she in the middle?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna take that as a no. If she does have anything, we'll jump back on that. Members of the staff, I don't see any. Heidi is here for you, Laurie?
Yep.
Okay. Budget review, budget presentation, and first draft budget, and then childcare tax. So, oh, are you doing it by yourself?
Well, Donna's on her way.
Okay, so she's driving
She's coming
here?
here, yeah.
Do you mind then, why don't we have Laurie present the budget?
Yeah.
And then after we see the budget, then you guys can kind of justify it. How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay, so this is something new that Tracey and Donna came up with and talked to our superintendent about. So they actually did a little presentation on the justification on why they're asking for what they're asking for in the budget, which I think is really cool, and I can
comes
commend
Laura.
you folks for that. So why don't, Laurie, you start with the overview of the budget.
Okay. So I'm going to start right off with the narrative. So if everybody has the board packet in front of them, I'm on the narrative here. So the overall expense budget is up $312,000, a 4.78%, which is pretty decent in this environment of high inflation. And, as we talk through where the increase is coming from, the note of the healthcare benefits at 16.4%. So coming in at a 4.78% is looking pretty good at this point. This also includes negotiated and non-negotiated salary increases, which is the negotiated is the union folks there, and that's already been, that is set in stone. The non-negotiated is just a placeholder at this point. Salary lines incorporated last year and this year's increase, since fiscal year 24 was a negotiation year. So what I mean by that is that on any salary line, particularly in a teacher salary line, you're going to see more than a 5% increase because we're actually accounting for 2 years of increase because the negotiations didn't finish up before the budget was presented last year.
But we
So it's
did
a-
put money away.
Yes.
It's just it doesn't show in the budget because we put in a separate line.
Correct, so you'll see actually a reduction in the board section of the budget that was, it's called special items. So that money was set aside for negotiations, so that we can negotiate in good faith. So that you just kind of put the money there and it holds it aside. So understand that as you're looking through the budget, that the salary lines may look a little out of whack, but it's really 2 years increase there. Healthcare benefits, like I said, and then there were some FTE and staff increases. And now this is what we're looking at here is budget over budget, right? So what we planned for last year, what's probably actually happening this year, and then what we're budgeting for fiscal year 25. So there is a para support, a one-to-one needed, and that is not a special ed cost. Their increase of PE and health, 0.10 for health classes. An increase in after school and Wardsboro. A lot of this is for supervision. They were finding that some of the behavioral challenges were happening after school. This is a slight increase. It doesn't even really, it probably accounts to less than a 0.10, but I wanted to identify that. A 0.6 increase overall to a 0.1. I'm sorry, to a 1.0 Wardsboro nurse, which also includes health classes in Wardsboro as well. And then we did add a position in the food service department so that Wardsboro could really have better food delivery and a better program overall. So those were the main increases in FTEs staffing. Then we had, some maintenance increases. A lot of these were due to increased building projects and inflation. Really just kind of looking at what has been actually spent over the last few years and realizing that we're probably under budgeting in that line item. So we increased that. It's tied to that River Valley's operations sheet, so you can see what the major projects are that are planned for fiscal year 25. And then there'll be some, increases in supplies and that type of thing as well. The reason that you're only up 4.78 after all those additions is because there was a decrease to the secondary students. And we're seeing this actually across the SU. Anywhere that there were tuition students, particularly around COVID, they have left. We increased and now we're seeing the decrease. So overall, between the two budgets, it was 15 students. So that's pretty significant amount there. So that allowed for some spending in the elementary, which sometimes it can go the reverse, right? And it probably did to some degree when we were in COVID, is that we had to spend money on the secondary students for tuition and maybe couldn't do some of the things that we needed to in the elementaries. So that's really the high level overview of the budget. I would entertain any questions. I did put the numbers, the line item numbers, if anybody has any questions on a particular line item that, may look, I tried to put some notes on here as well so that, maybe pre-answer some of those questions as to why there might be a large increase in one particular area. So this is the line item detailed budget. Also in your packet is there are a couple of different ways to look at the budget, and I always think it's important and interesting to look at it differently. The next one is the expenditures by object. So this is your salaries, benefits. it kind of shows you where we're seeing the increases there. And I did put some notes on that. And then, you know, the River Valley's annual budget expenditures by function. That's the other way to look at the budget. That's basically by department. Where are we seeing, you know, some major increases there? Operations of buildings, you know, you can see there's an increase there. Legal services, you know, we've had more legal services this year, last year, this year in particular, so I did increase the legal services. And it's
Oh, but that should come down because that was, a lot of that was negotiations.
I think we're still having some legal things that we need to, so we're just making sure we've got it budgeted in there. The school nurse, that's where that was added, right? So we talked about that, increasing the Wardsboro nurse there. So does anybody have any questions?
Well, I want to make a quick comment.
Sure.
Remember, we're not voting on the budget tonight. This is just our first draft. We don't have to approve the budget till the end of February. So, and I know it's a lot of pages, and, you know, I was going to blame the 4.78% increase on Mike because he's the only new one here, so. But, I thought it was reasonable. But, so remember, we're also going to have Tracey and Donna, maybe if Donna comes, do kind of like a review. So we will have more chances to ask questions too. I don't know if people really had a good chance to take a look at it, but I really think you know, pay attention to what Laurie was saying about the increase of less than 5% increase is really decent, especially when you got 16% increase in health. And our biggest expense as a school board has always been tuition and salary. So are there any questions for Laurie? So will you
I have a question.
Okay, hang on one sec. Will you be available next meeting too? Even not just so that if the people do have questions too, we can get them ahead of time. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. And I'm not sure if we have this information yet or not, but do we have a projected cost per pupil and what that increase would be based on what we have in front of us? I apologize, I'm on the road.
We usually do have that because we usually we usually look at a budget first and then try to figure out an educationally sound, taxpayer-friendly budget, and then we come back into how much it is per pupil, how much it's going to cost, what the tax implications of it are.
Yeah, I do have that information. I think it's, I did want to talk first before we moved on to that particular information, but there was a couple things that I wanted to talk about, building related first, and then I know that Tracey and Donna have a presentation that really ties the budget to student learning, but then we could come back and talk about cost per student and tax rates.
Student needs.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Laura. So can I keep going or?
Well, hang on a second.
Okay.
Mike, are you set?
I'm just curious, how do you determine cost per student type thing, especially when you're paying tuition?
Yeah, cost per student is actually what Laura's referring to is a calculation that we use in order to come up with a tax rate.
Sure.
So it's a simple calculation of the expenses, what you see here, minus any offsetting revenues. So these are revenues that might be tuition kids coming into the school. It might be grants, local revenue, any type of revenue that's not from the state. And that determines your education spending. And so the education spending is then divided by the pupils.
Sure. In building and
it's actually divided by the weighted pupils, which we'll talk about afterwards. But that's how the state looks at a cost per student because that's what the tax rate is tied to.
thanks.
Well, I just didn't know if you guys were going to review it.
I'm just making room for the cookies.
Yeah. The cookies can go on the main table.
But really your cost per student,
Got it.
if you really want to be accurate about it, is your expenses divided by your students, really. That's not how the state looks at it for tax purposes though.
But there's also, like, if we had a bond issue or there's certain things you can exclude from that.
Right.
It's really complicated, a little bit. Kate, you all set? Thank you, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
One more.
Mm-hmm. Keep them heading.
Kate's good. Dwight?
Yeah, I just had one quick one. I appreciate, separating out the operational expenses and the capital. One of the questions I always have in my work is what exactly is a capital expense? How do how do you determine? Some of the items on the operational seem kind of pricey, whether floor replacement and the HVAC work. Could those items maybe be put into a capital expense rather than an operational expense?
Remember too, Dwight, it's the money that we have to raise. So when we move money in from other places, then it doesn't really count.
Yeah.
And so if we move like 200,000 from the reserves into the operational budget, that's gonna reduce our number, correct?
Reduce your number.
Well, our tax number, but it doesn't reduce our per pupil expenditure. But they don't look at, do they
No.
look,
Not at the capital reserve fund, no.
Yeah.
I think, are you asking like what the items that are listed?
Obviously, you got to pay for it somewhere, whether or not you pay for it in capital expense or operational. But if you were to move some of the those larger operational expenses into the capital budget, that might help us a little bit on the increase.
Yeah, I mean, I think to what Rich is saying, the money has to be raised somehow, right?
Right.
I think that what Greg has used, and he's apologizes, but he had a family commitment tonight. Basically his school of thought is anything that is $5,000 or less is going to go in your operational, and anything over 5,000 will go into the capital. So that's where we draw the line in most cases.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
thank you, Dwight. And then Chad, do you have any questions before we move on?
No, I'm good. Presentation's fantastic. Again, as White said, breaking it down between operational functionality has been a big help as well.
Great. Good.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So just one thing that I wanted to bring up tonight while we're talking about the budget, I think that this is a good time to bring it up, is if we go to the capital reserve account, River Valley's capital budget has a little yellow line on it down here if you have it on the screen.
Sorry. Since we're talking about operational, should they do their presentation that has to do with operational and then we come back to this?
Sure. Yeah. That sounds good. Let's tie the. That's a great idea.
Hey, we're gonna, so guys, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go to Donna and Tracey have a presentation on justification on some of these operational item issues. So let's do that next, because that kind of ties into the operational budget, and then we'll move back to the capital budget, if that's okay with everybody. And I just want the board members that aren't here to know that these cookies are great, and we're eating yours for you, okay? So we're turning it over to our administrators.
Yes.
Mike and I are getting cookies.
I already went through it.
Another? Okay. I won't touch them, but.
All right, so we have a very quick, down and dirty Reader's Digest version of why this budget aligns with our priorities.
And I'd like to thank Laurie Garland, because she met with both Tracey and I a couple of times to kind of review our budget and really look at what our increases are. And thanks to Bob and the rest of our colleagues who have given some presentations, and so we were inspired by doing this.
Here we go. So first we have Donna and I got together and we talked about what is our administrative belief. And so we as a team at River Valleys are committed to lifelong learning. We want to mold these young people to be responsible members of society. And our belief mirrors the River Valleys School District mission, which basically says the same thing. And then we wanted to show y'all our continuous improvement plan. And what was really nice about it is that our plans are the same. So,
Could you
and I think that was done by
We've
design.
got a new board member too. Can you talk about the real brief, the Reader's Digest, what is a continuous improvement plan?
Sure.
Sure.
So the continuous improvement plan is a 3-year plan. We're at 2023 to 2025. And it is a plan that we as a staff and a district review quite a bit. We try to do it as much as possible because we're making some goals and we're hoping to achieve those goals. And we measure those goals, we write down what are some of the strategies,
Reflect on them.
reflect
change
on them, can be changed. And they are aligned with the Wyndham Central Supervisory Union as well.
I thought it involved parents and too.
Yeah, so what,
Stakeholders,
yeah,
yep.
so when we, although Don and I didn't create this one, it is a team decision. So we have community members and parents and staff members that we sit and we brainstorm and come up with, 3 solid goals that reflect the supervisory union's direction.
Thank
So,
you.
one of them is academic achievement, and this is a good one, and a lot of people are like 100% of students, and this is not surprising to educators because we all believe that every child can succeed no matter what, and that they will be proficient in every core subject area. So that is a lofty one, but every child is capable of succeeding. Our next one aligns with Safe and Healthy Schools, which is our MTSS plan, which is a multi-tiered system of support. This is a system that uses targeted instruction to support struggling learners so that we make sure that 100% of students can succeed. We put in place scaffolding so that they can be successful. And our last one also falls under Safe and Healthy Schools, which is a positive culture. And I mean, particularly Don and I, because we're new, this one was huge for us. While I'm not new to my building, like you can't be successful unless the adults in your building are have those expectations that everyone can succeed and that everyone will work together, and it builds that positive climate because that trickles down and we want all of our kids to feel that. So those are our 3 continuous improvement goals.
Do you know where you're at now with students meeting CCSS?
Common Core Standards.
Yeah, are you at like 90%, 80%, 50%? Okay.
It's
hard to say right
hard
now.
to say right
It's
now.
hard to say now.
I would say we are probably solidly above 50.
Okay. I mean, do you think it
It's
is
different from each
doable?
subject area too.
It is
It
different
is.
for each subject.
And so our LCAS really outlines what we do when students are not meeting those proficiencies. And as a team, those data meetings, when you hear we're benchmarking using Ames Web, we're progress monitoring students, educational support team meetings, IEP team meetings, 504 meetings. So when kids are not making the progress that they should be making, we come together and say, what can we do? What are we missing?
Cool. Thank you.
So that kind of explains the slide. The continuous improvement in schools enhances educational quality by identifying weaknesses and implementing targeted strategies, just like what we were talking about. We evaluate and refine teaching methods. I will tell you one area strategy that we have been practicing is a problem of practice model. And so, hey, just informally tell me what's going on and what are some issues. And then we all listen, get some clarifying answers, and we write down some possible ways to reteach or refine that teaching method so that kids can succeed. It's not a one-size-fits-all mold for all our students. So we look at the curriculum design and student support systems, which will help meet evolving student needs and deliver high-standard education, and that's what we aim towards. Do you want to read the other side?
So then our education changes with society, changes with technology, changes with research, and there's always something new and better coming out. And so we try to stay on top of all of those things because we want to be the most innovative district that we can be and adapt to these new strategies that are coming out because we have to also teach our children to be flexible because things change all of the time.
So continuous improvement plans promote accountability and transparency in educational institutions. Schools build trust and make informed decisions by setting clear goals, collecting progress data, and communicating outcomes. And those outcomes are communicated, through our conferences with parents. We will have meetings to discuss anything that does come up in the ESTs. That's a 6 to 8 week time of starting an intervention.
And so then now we broke it out by school. So Dover School focuses on the International Baccalaureate program, which is basically a program that just develops skills and knowledge to mold successfully globally inspired students. We try to encourage our students to be forward thinking. We try to encourage them to be problem solvers by using inquiry-based model. And so, of course, our motto is work hard, be kind. And that's what we instill in them day to day. We also are shifting our discipline approach to conscious discipline. And basically, this is a strategy or a management system that promotes self-regulation, promotes children to be empathetic. And we are, as a staff, participating in professional development video courses through with Dr. Becky Bailey. It's a series of videos with discussion afterwards and some reading and we use lots of team talking and circles to try to promote the best environment for students. The key components of it are teaching kids self-regulation, teaching them that connection is important, teaching them social skills. We want to create an environment where they can be supported and feel respected and feel empowered to make their own decisions. And it will take about 5 years to make this entire shift, but we are seeing great strides, and particularly our pre-K and kindergarten, because these are the students that have solely had conscious discipline, and they are very, very in tune with when their body is not regulated and what they need to do to help them to become better students. So it's really powerful, and we're super excited.
That's great to hear, Tracy. Nice job. So STEAM, STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics. It is an approach to learning that uses these subjects as access points for guiding students' inquiry, dialogue, and critical thinking. Using STEAM education results in students who take thoughtful risks, engage in experiential learning, persist in problem solving, embrace collaboration, and work through the creative process. These are the innovators, educators, leaders, and learners of the 21st century. So this year, I guess we can go to the next one. Yeah. So Wardsboro is a positive behavior intervention and support school, PBIS, and this proactive system approach is establishing behavior supports and social culture needed for all students in a school to achieve social, emotional, academic success. We continue to build on the system so that social and emotional learning is transferable. Talking about what listening to a conscious discipline is and transferring those skills. We are navigating with PBIS how to do those. And those are our ROARs, expectations, responsible, own it, achieve, respect, and safety. And so we have a team vision. The West staff will research STEAM professional learning to develop the skills necessary to provide STEAM opportunities for students to solve real-world problems to benefit their future and future of society. So I thank you for supporting our STEAM development, and continue to develop. We did send a staff member to a conference, and we were hoping to get that learning back to Wardsboro, but an unforeseen circumstance happened, so we were unable to do that. But our team is still committed to learning more, and we have carved out in the schedule planning time with our coordinator, STEAM coordinator, Katie Hughes. I will be supervising the classrooms while they get that extra planning time so we can start our monthly STEAM events again.
Oh, you haven't been doing them?
We have been doing some STEAM activities solely in classrooms, but we haven't gotten it off to the ground due to like the other circumstances going on in the building. Yeah, so we're flexible. We're flexible, and we still have perseverance to continue.
You're still here, you haven't left us yet.
We're here for the kids.
There you go.
So we also, Donna and I have spent a lot of time working with our staff on core values, and Donna's staff wasn't quite ready to share theirs yet, but Dover staff was fine with me sharing those. And so while we all have a ton of core values, the ones that you see pretty large, like family, you can see that here at Dover School, like we are a family, and that's the one that came up the most, and so that's why it's the biggest in this, they call it a wordle. But so we just wanted to show you that some of the values that we have here, and family was a huge one, which I thought was pretty wonderful that came out of this.
I also like to see the diversity and equity.
Yeah, equity,
That's
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one where like everybody puts down their words, and then it takes whichever one
Makes
had
the
the
word
most
cloud.
hits.
Yeah, yep.
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 And we've been doing a lot of work with Bob and our admin team on values and our beliefs, and we've been doing it as colleagues too, because it's so important to understand, everybody's comes to a different place, have different things taught to them, different values, and to understand each other's values and beliefs is really important. So we both are hoping to partner more with this and get our staff together to hear about our values. I think it's really important.
So I think if you take what you guys just did and take what
Sure.
Laurie did
Yep.
with the FTE increases, I
Sure.
mean, that fits right into what you guys are, what you've got, what our administrators are looking for in their building. So I think that was a really good presentation. That was a good 1-2 punch.
Thank you.
So now we can't blame Mikey anymore. Sorry, buddy, you're off the hook.
So good.
So, do you have any questions for the presentation? Anybody? Kate, Dwight, Chad, or Laura? Any questions on the presentation? Laura, can you send that? Because Laura probably couldn't see it if she's in her car.
Of course.
We'll ask them to send that to all the board members.
Thank you.
Dwight, you have anything, or Kate, Chad?
No, I just wanted to say it was an excellent presentation. I really appreciate it. It's nice to see the collaboration going on between you guys and focusing on those things that are important to the community, and it's wonderful. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwight.
Okay, if everybody's set then, and again, remember this, we're going to talk about the budget more, so if we have specific questions, we can ask the administrators too, because obviously Laurie meets with them and Bob and when they put the budget together. So we'll do this again at the next meeting. We'll have another discussion on the operational budget. So if everybody's good with that for right now, not meaning good that we're voting on it, but good that we can move on, we're going to ask Laurie to talk to us a little bit about the capital stuff.
Right. All right, so looking at the River Valley's capital budget, you will see that particularly in Dover, there was a large addition for the roof covering there. This is just a placeholder. It's not, it was a quote that we got, but this would have to be put out to bid. But it's really come down to the fact that I think Tracey, you and I talked the other day that we're up to about $20,000 of repairs for this year alone, and then last year I think it was at least 12 to 15,000. So each year we're beginning to ramp up in repairs for something that really needs to be addressed. It was also, as you know, we had, the state mandated a capital needs assessment through Act 72, and that also came up on the critical need as well. And I believe you have copies of that document. Those documents, for one was for Wardsboro and one was for Dover. So I guess the question, you know, and it doesn't have to be answered tonight, as Rich was saying, but the discussion probably should be had as to whether to add this to the budget for this next...
The roof.
The roof.
Yeah.
Whether to add, you know, and it can be added in several different ways. It could be added as an operational expense and get it done. It could be added as a transfer to reserves. Or to capital. It could be done as a separate article, all which we've done before. So
just to speak to the roof, when Act 60 came around, you know, there was a hold harmless, so our the tax rate was going to go up to a certain number, whether we spent it or not. So we actually did the roof, and I want to say it was like 100 and something thousand when we did it. And it was when Act 60 first came out, so I'm thinking it's like 23 or 24 years ago, and we knew it was a 20-year roof. So we've actually, we've bought a couple more years, but they did, one of the things that I'll never forget, when we were talking about it we had a clerk of the works, and we had a gentleman who was actually driving bus for us, who business had been commercial roofing in the city. You know, he said the problem with these kind of roofs, membrane roofs, is that they're really good until they're not. And it's not like you look at your shingles and you see them starting to peel off. And you say, okay, I got a couple more years. It's really hard on a membrane roof to know when it's going to go, but it's like a mirror, they said. All of a sudden, it's just going to be gone. It's going to break. And then you have 7 years of bad luck. So we really need to, I really...
Leaks.
Well, yeah, but then... And the leak, it's not just the leaks though, it's the damage the leaks cause, you know? Carpeting to the floors, you know, there's mold issues now that we never had before. So I really think that it's something we need to really consider, but we're not gonna make a decision tonight. And remember, the 545 is not probably what we're gonna spend, but it's a placeholder in the budget. But again, too, until they pull this old roof off, we don't know, you know, what those leaks have done and how many leaks we had that never made it to where we could see them. And, you know, if you look up, it's all wood under the roofing structure. So there could be some rot up there, too, that we don't know about. So there's a whole bunch of free radicals in there. So I would argue that we should really think strongly about doing that.
putting it in this for
Yeah, for
25.
this year.
So just to kind of prove, you know, to look at what the effect would be long-term to not do this for a while, obviously the roof issues and the leaks and the other damage that it will cause. But if you look at the capital building fund and fleet management fund sheet, so this is where it basically shows you what you've asked for in the past, or asked the voters to put into the reserve fund in the past, which has been about $150,000. You've asked the voters to put that into the capital. So if you continue, I mean, you can see that you're just going to be underwater for a long time if you don't take care of the roof in a one-shot deal.
It was a good pun right there. Underwater. If you
Oh,
take care of the
yeah. Did everybody
even
catch
know
that
that,
in
did you?
Zoom land? No,
well
I didn't see
played.
it.
Well played.
You guys would be underwater. Roof, get it? Okay.
Well, we did a lot of water system stuff too.
Yes, that's true. So I just, you know, I wanted to point out that something has to be done in order to fund this, whether it's this year or in the future. It's not, I think we had it at $250,000, and it's just not, it's going to be much more than that. And that was based on the CNA back, gosh, Dwight, when did we do those CNAs with,
Just before we formed the district.
yeah,
while ago.
yeah, it was 2018, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5, 6 years ago.
So you can see how things have inflated over the years. So that's just my point is the board should consider doing this project.
So why don't we plan on, hopefully maybe next meeting, Greg as the facilities person can come and talk about it, and we'll have to make a decision because we're gonna have to, vote to put money either away or get money or something else. I'm sure the state of Vermont has a fund to help, right? That's capital construction. Did I say something wrong?
Good question, Rich.
Yeah, go ahead, Dwight, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, obviously, a very large expense, and it makes sense to do it all at once. I would agree with that. I think, getting back to the capital, and it might make sense to engage with an engineer to help us to assess the roofs. I understand they kind of go all at one time, Rich, but if we have the backing of an engineer, it might make it easier to present that to the voters if we know that it absolutely needs to be replaced. So we might want to consider going down that route just to confirm how old the roof is and needs to be replaced.
I can tell you how old the roof is, but I can't tell you the
If it needs to be
condition.
replaced, not
No, but
right away.
that's why I wanted Greg to have a discussion with
Yeah.
Greg at the next meeting, if we could, even if he does Zoom for us. I think, again, like Dwight said, and last time, Dwight, we hired a clerk of the works, Dwight, to oversee the roof. But I do agree that it would be probably good to have an engineer because I don't, Greg's, doesn't do rubber membrane roofs, so it'd be nice to have somebody who kind of certifies it. And then warranties are better, and I was telling him earlier, there's some new product out there that is supposed to be a lot stronger. Maybe it's a 30-year project instead of 20 now. So it'll outlive most of us here, or outlive our terms. Go ahead, Chad. Maybe
Well,
not
I
your turn.
think you guys, raise another point as you talk about sort of, to stay with the water puns, Laurie, the trickle down of, potential damage. Just looking, forward ahead, there are other items, skylights, classroom cabinets and counters, ceiling mounted heaters, that all, I think, yields together. And so I think Dwight, tailing on what, you just said about an engineer, obviously we don't want to crush ourselves by looking at all these projects together, but it seems that a lot of them may be intertwined for the maximum benefit of, installation of skylights while the roof is being done, maximizing the well-being of new countertops and cabinets, that are needed for the classrooms. So in addition to money, really being cognizant of sort of the order of operations to make sure that we don't wind up damaging new things, in spite of ourselves.
Chad, you also brought up another good point, and we were going to look into this, and I know West River's had a lot more challenges than us, but maybe it's time that we could get a little bit of work from central office, because, we have this solar array over here that I don't know, we were supposed to, remember you and I were talking with the fire district, they found that they're giving back a lot of credits. I know in West River they were giving back some credits. In the Dover building, we have 2 huge boilers that went in during the addition, so they're like 25 to 28 years. Usually oil boilers don't get replaced as often because with gas, there's always efficiency issues, and the oil doesn't seem to change. The efficiency's kind of maxed out. And but maybe it's time to go back. When this building was built, it was all electric heaters in the building, because in the 70s, everybody did electric. Then they went away from electric, and Act 250 actually mandated that you couldn't have electric resistance heaters. And now that they're working with all the solar, so we may even be able to have a study or have somebody look at, and maybe, Dwight, it isn't the electric school buses, but it's electric heat that we can utilize. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do, and I think maybe we really should work with Greg and maybe a small subcommittee of the board to look into some efficiencies. And Wardsboro's solar, I don't exactly understand how that works, but is there extra credits there, or are we?
It's tied to the one at Newbrook, the solar array at Newbrook, and.
But I mean, if we were to put electric heat in Wardsboro, you know, some of the whatchamacallits, the heat pumps now and the mini splits, you know, have dehumidification in them, so I think that could really help with the air quality, you know, especially in the summer or the spring and the fall when you get really warm days or humid, a lot of rain. So I think that there's a bunch of things we can do along with the roof too, so. So we may want to think about that, and again, I think, Dwight, your point as an engineer to look at that may say to us that, yeah, you may want to spend $500,000 to replace all these units, but your payback will be in 5 years. So I think those are all good points that we can work on. But it's still going to be how much are we going to put in the reserves? So Kate and Laura, do you have any comments on the capital? Kate's good. Okay.
Do you want to?
Oh,
Yes.
yes, here we go.
Richard,
Go ahead.
I will want us to think about separately warned articles on these.
Yeah, we usually do for
I'm
funding.
just noting that Laurie gave us multiple options. I just want to weigh in it. That feels pretty important to me.
Okay. Good.
Do we want to talk about
Yeah.
that? Okay. All right, so moving on, we're going to look at the,
This was a question that Dwight asked, right?
yeah,
Laura.
well, the cost per student, yeah.
Right.
So we're going to look, we don't usually do this this early in the budget process, but I think it's important to bring this up now. I think we're actually presenting a little bit later than we normally do anyway. So there's a couple of reasons. One is Act 127. I want you to understand the mechanisms there and how it plays out. I want you to understand the CLA. But I also, you know, back to what Rich said, the voters vote on an expense budget. They don't vote on a tax rate, and we will not know. These tax rates will not be set until June. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that these are just estimates based on my knowledge today. So the first one I want to look at, it just says budget summary at the top. It doesn't have any additional or anything like that. It just says budget summary. You should see the same number, the $6.8 million there, 4.78%. Is everybody seeing that on the top line?
It says right here, right?
It is.
Because there's two.
There's two. Two options. but-
It's stapled in here, yep. Okay, go ahead.
Are we good? Everybody online's got it? Okay. So that's the expense budget, fiscal year 25, and then right underneath it is the year-over-year offsetting revenues. This is what I was talking about before. You'll see that there's a major decrease in that, right? $261,000. So why, right? That's the big question. And part of that is from Act 127. There is no longer a small schools grant. So River Valleys did, which was then turned into a transition grant. Because you did merge, you received that transition grant, and it was about 150,000. Sorry, I don't have that right in my fingertips. And then the balance of it is just a decrease in revenues that we expect in from tuition students. So there's just less tuition students coming to either Dover or Wardsboro. So that's the other reduction. But the transition grant had to do with Act 127 because of the weights. It picked it up in the weights. So the year-over-year education spending, this is just expenses minus the offsetting revenues, gives you the ed spending. And that is at 9.47%. Okay, so if you remember back to the December 1st letter, I'm sure everybody had coffee and read right through it.
Laura did.
Laura did. We know Laura did. That number was projected to be 12% ed spending average increase. So this is underneath that. So the potential unified tax rate before the CLA is right now, as it stands, $1.60, which is 14 cents more than last year's. However, there is a 5% cap, which is part of the law, which caps you at $1.53, almost $1.54. Okay. You'll see that your long-term weighted ADM, LTWADM, that line there is up significantly. This is all of the reweighting. So this is, you obviously don't have 452 students in your district, but it's a 2-year rolling average with the new weights that have been applied. So new weights for rurality or sparsity, a new weight for English language learners, which you have 2 in the district, new weights for poverty or free and reduced, which was the largest throughout the whole state, was the largest gain because they're collecting the data differently than they were last year. So that number is the new weighted average that you'll have, and it's compared with last year. The state converted the equalized pupils. Remember, that was a lot less number, or a lot smaller number, because the weights were different, but they converted it so that it would be apples to apples. So you can see there was a nice increase there. So then the yield, the projected yield, this is a little different than the December 1st letter, 9,171. This is the new recommended yield to use, which is a reduction from the 9452. And if you remember, the yield is basically, it's the mechanism that the state uses to raise and lower tax rates. So if your yield goes down, your tax rate goes up. If the yield goes up, your tax rates go down. So dividing the education spending by the long-term weighted ADM gives you your cost per pupil, which is $14,685.
$20 less.
$20 less than the previous year. Okay. So the other mechanism in the law, or the other piece of the law is that if you stay under 10% increase of per pupil spending, then you are not triggered for a tax review. If you go over the 10%, then you are triggered for a tax review. And we're supposed to have information this week as to what that tax review committee, we know basically it's made up of a couple of business managers, a couple of superintendents, and some probably the AOE, and maybe another designee from the Secretary of Ed's office. So we don't know exactly what that mechanism, or I'm sorry, what that committee is reviewing, but it's costs that are within your control. If you're over the 10%, let's say that you were a district that had been advantaged for the last 20 years through weights and had a reduction in your long-term weighted ADM, then that is going to, and then that pushed your cost per pupil over 10%. That's a legitimate reason to pass the review because this was out of your control, right? This was just the weights were recalibrated. If you are over the 10% and you don't pass the review, then your tax rate reverts to what it would have been. So you don't get the cap, that 5% cap. So that's really everything up until CLA, right? So that's important information to understand as we move through the budgeting process as far as Act 127 is concerned. The CLAs, in my mind, it's a separate issue, right? So we're also dealing with a pretty major, in Dover at least, a pretty major reduction in CLA. Wardsboro was reappraised. So Wardsboro is still seeing a tax increase, but not, nearly as much as Dover because of the CLA. And the CLA is, of course, so that your town pays what they're supposed to in education spending to the state to fund the ed fund. And so this is really a result of the housing market and the houses, going for a lot more money than market value. So, getting down to the tax rate. So I figured these tax rates on using the cap, using that $1.54. Okay. So you can see, Dover has a 37-cent increase there, 20%, almost 21%. Wardsboro is looking at an almost 8% increase with 11 cents there. So that is how it works through. The other thing that I wanted to show you is on the next page.
Just real quick on this page, and I know we talked about it, and I don't know where it is. Can we just get what the tax rate would be if the CLA had not changed, if it was still at the 81?
Yes.
Because again, CLA is really out of our control. That's the assessor's office. But I think people need to understand too, you're going to do it one way or the other, because for the state to say we're at 100%, they're going to raise everybody's values on their properties almost 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of this. You're paying the same dollar amount. It just the rates look different.
Right. That's exactly right. So if Dover's CLA had come in exactly like it was for 24, then the tax rate would be $1.89, and
like 9 cents.
9 cents. It would be the 5%.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So before we move on, does anybody have any questions? And again, I always, there's always been that huge discussion about how difficult it is now, because it's not as simple. A penny on the tax rate raises $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever that number is, because it's a little bit more convoluted formula. So are you good? Clear as mud? Wicked clear as mud. Kate, Dwight, Chad, Laura?
I have a question.
Shoot.
Again, apologies for me. That includes both provisional and the capital, roof, etc.
Hey, no,
Didn't catch
she
it.
didn't include, if your question was, Laura, and you were breaking up bad, is the capital for the roof included in that budget
It is
and that tax rate? No, it is not.
But I'm about to show you where it is.
Laura, can you hear us?
Yeah, great, thank you.
You're welcome. Dwight or Chad or Kate, you all good? Yep, thank you. Thank you.
Just had a quick one. Just want to, so that the way obviously this is going to change with the CLA, but so is it the increase for Dover, the projected increase for Dover, is that basically because of the CLA isn't accurate? Is that why it's a larger increase in Wardsboro?
The CLA is accurate, but it's just a lot less than it was last year. The state determines the CLA. So if the CLA was the same as last year, we'd have a little bit less of it would be 9 cents versus 37 cents.
Yeah, okay, that's my question. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So looking at the second summary that I attached, this is what Laura was asking. So I added $650,000 to the budget, to the expense budget, right? Just to give you an idea of where how it works, right? So that number at the top is the 7.4, almost $7.5 million. Is everybody got that in front of them?
Yeah.
Okay. So, basically, we're doing the same math, the same calculation, taking the offsetting revenues off. Ed spending is now at 20.18%, so that's, up from the
11%.
9.47% that was on the previous page. Your tax rate, your unified tax rate before the CLA, without the cap, is $1.75, or basically 30 cents, or 20% up, right? So that's before a CLA is figured into it. However, the cap comes into play, right? So that's $1.54. So your tax rate is actually held at $1.54. Same calculations down through. Your cost per pupil now is 9.64%. So under the 10%, so there's no tax review. But you're held at that $1.54. So your tax rates are all the same on the bottom.
So, are there any questions on that? I want to say one thing. I think, obviously, this little loophole was unanticipated. So there is a lot of discussion about what's going to happen. So I think Laura's comment earlier, and I think she may have left us. She moved up a block. Is that I definitely believe this should be a separate article, because we would warn that amount as a separate article for the repair of the roof. And then, again, one of the reasons we try to put our annual meeting off, and we try to have a live meeting, is that we can see what the legislature has done. We can see what this review process maybe looks like, because a lot of other schools will have approved their budget already. And we can also then advise people at town meeting, or at the school district meeting, what we should do. Maybe we come in and we recommend that you vote this article down because there is no protection anymore. Or we decide to, maybe we ask that we're going to finance it, or maybe the state comes up with some capital aid assistance, like they used to do 25 years ago. So there's a lot of variances there, but I think from us as River Valley board members and River Valley, as a River Valley group, I think it's a very legitimate and a very it's something we need to give to the voters and let the voters decide on. I really do believe that we really should look into this, because we are in some needs, and again, we haven't done a lot with our buildings either in Wardsboro or in Dover since Act 60, because it changed the playing field for us a lot. Especially we had 15 years of payments on an addition, and the legislature did have a hold harmless deal with that too, that the tax rate for the bond repayment couldn't be any different than what it was pre-Act 60. But again, it's a hugely different playing field. And again, this isn't something we're going to decide on tonight or vote on tonight. It was for discussion only. Can I just ask, as a poll straw, would everybody be in agreement that this would be a really good special article to have so that we can discuss it and explain it? And that we would present our tax rate based on not having the money in there? That would be an additional article that would add to the volume, or to what we're going to ask to raise. Any thoughts?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dwight.
No, sorry. Yeah, no, absolutely, Rich. I would totally agree with that. I mean, it's such a large expense. It makes sense to make that separate, and also for budgeting purposes, what you're talking about, I would totally agree with that.
Okay, thank you, Dwight. Laura?
I would support both out as separate articles, separate items and articles. I think there's going to be a lot of commotion about this. At the state, I think there could be, could be a lot of negative action directed at school boards, which would not be fair because the school boards did not create this loophole. So I just think we need to make sure that we keep our eyes wide open the whole time and keep these as separate articles. That will be really helpful for me when I think about whether or not I can vote to move these along. So, thanks.
Kate or Chad?
Yeah, Rich, I mean, I agree with both Dwight and Laura. Blending them together can cause just a little bit more, confusion perhaps. And I think to be as clear as possible, you joke often that we've made it as clear as mud. Our job is truly to filter the silt, let it settle to the bottom so that we understand and that our constituents understand everything as clearly as possible and doing the best thing we can to set the school district up, not just for next year, but for future years.
Thank you. Kate?
I think that's the key part. I think that we have to do the best thing that we can do as this board and give our community all the information that we have so that we set up our school district to do the best we can for future years.
You all set, man? So I think we've gotten a lot of information thrown at us. We've been about an hour. Laurie, you did a great job. I want to tell you guys that I used to get sick starting about the end of December when we started putting budget numbers together for town meeting. Until we got to town meeting, I would be sick to my stomach. I wouldn't sleep. My wife would yell at me. And I got to tell you, I used to wind up doing the budget myself and putting the numbers down and doing these spreadsheets and justification. And Laura probably remembers the Richie Warner over-under that we would bring to town meeting. Anything that was over $100 change in the budget, we had an explanation sheet, because we used to have people sit there and say, I noticed that in teacher salaries it went up $102. What is that for? Well, that was the salary increase. Oh, well, then how come the principals went up, $50? Because that's a salary increase. It's all 2%. I want to say that because I appreciate Laurie so much. She's done a great job with the budget because it's a lot more confusing now with the two towns. And I got to tell you, as administrators, our administrators would always kind of tell us that this is what they did, but your presentation was really helpful, and I think it's really cool, and we'll probably wind up using it at the district meeting also. So I think everybody did a great job, and for two first-year administrators in our district, you guys did great. Bob, thank you. You're going to miss Laurie, the old hat, when she's gone.
Very much so.
Yes, Laura.
Sorry, as a long-term board member, I just have to weigh in and say I completely agree with you. Laurie, thank you for being so careful and clear and helping us, particularly in this year. I think we are extremely fortunate to have you and, look forward to sorting through this with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. It's been a difficult year with communication, and I'll keep communicating with all of you as to what I'm hearing. So.
Okay, but we're not done with Laurie yet. Just got one more quick thing.
I do.
So I'm not going to say the act. I'm going to do the quick summary. If you saw the Wyndham Central meeting, the state of Vermont had created a child care tax. It's a 0.44% tax on the employers. And however, the legislature also said that you can take 0.11, 25% of that 0.44, and push it off to the staff. However, to do that, our contracted staff, there would need to be a side letter or side agreement. This was brought up and discussed in executive session for Wyndham Central, and it was pretty overwhelming. I think it was a very unanimous decision to just absorb the tax for us. I think Laurie, he said for us it was like $5,000.
It's $9,400 for river valleys, and a little over $1,000 would be what you could push up.
And so I thought that, that's something we can discuss. In 2 more years, Kate and I have to go back to negotiations probably. So I thought it would be something for right now. It would require a little bit of work, and I don't believe in pushing something like that off midterm, because it's no more fair to the employees. And we negotiated an increase with the employees, even just a 0.11, which I know is not a lot. It's less money they're taking home. So unless somebody has a burning desire to do that, I was hoping that we could just, by no action, we will just absorb the 0.44. I see a lot of head shaking.
I did budget.
It's in the budget, yeah.
It's in the budget.
And even if we vote to push it off, it probably wouldn't be worth trying to fix the budget anyways. But, and again, I know every dollar, if you watch it, pennies and dollars take care of themselves, but I think also you can be, penny wise and pound foolish. Okay, so Laurie, again, we really appreciate it.
Sure.
We're not going to embarrass you anymore.
Thank you.
By telling you how wonderful you are.
No.
Because we know you're not going to stay anyways.
That's right.
And just so you know, Heidi Russ is on too, and she's working with Laurie and helping, and actually was at the meeting live for the Wyndham Central to discuss some of this. So thank you, Heidi, for all your help too. Do you have, that's it? We don't need you, right? You're all set?
I don't think so. You have all
You
the...
can stay and visit, because the Celtics game is probably going to be boring.
I'm not a big basketball fan either, but...
Cool.
Sorry.
There's no football now till next weekend, the weekend after. Okay, so old business, Dover PCB update. Do we have anything? No.
No.
Cool.
It's the same as last time.
So that's kind of there as a placeholder in case something
Yep.
else new comes up.
We'll let you know.
Website update. So Chad, the email is about additional training. Did you have a chance to look at that in between?
Yep, I did. Did read it. Excuse me. Yeah, so Cynthia, one of the partners at Edwards, who's worked with us throughout this project, has asked, what our needs are as far as additional training for members of the staff in each building. So that is something that we will definitely reach out to Donna and Tracey and identify the key stakeholders, for that purpose, which I think would be relatively unchanged, as we included both Laurie and Jen Finaldi, the office admins from each building, would be the 2 primary points. So I'm glad to, that Edwards is still, in our corner. I did have a conversation, in passing with Jen Finaldi, that she was under the impression that once we went live that we would lose that training opportunity. So, that is not the case, A, but B, as a reminder to the board and our community that we have ample room in the budget. While our goal is not to spend the entirety amount that was budgeted for the project, we do have, plenty of room to source what we need to make sure that the folks that are going to be working on this with the casual updates that are necessary for any valuable website, that any school would utilize is there and ready for them.
Okay, so are there any questions from anybody? Looks like you got off pretty easy, Chad. Policy update. Kate, when are you and Mike having your policy committee?
When I find time in my schedule to build an agenda and time to check in with Mike on his availability. So that is still on my pending to-do list.
Cool. So it's good where it is. So just so you all know, though, Kate did represent River Valleys at the district policy committee, and they have 40 policies to go through, 30.
It's quite a few, yeah.
A lot of them may not apply, but Kate will be updating us on that too. And then Dwight, you had electrified school buses.
Electric buses, yeah, I wanted to give an update on that, Rich, thank you. So if you guys remember back in June or July, I reported that our district wasn't eligible for the grant program for the electric bus because we had to have a minimum of 50 buses, if you remember, which I thought was unfortunate. But it turns out there's two separate programs within this program. Then one of them is the grant, the other is what's called a rebate. And luckily I signed up for email notifications, so I got a little bit more information on this. And the good news is the rebate portion of the program, we are eligible for just to apply for one school bus, which is exciting. The rebate program also is geared towards rural areas, so that there's actually a list of school districts throughout the country which we are on, which gets preferential treatment as well to be accepted for the rebate program, which is exciting. So we are eligible to apply now, although I only have 2 weeks to get that done. It needs to be completed by the 14th of February. And so the program will give us about $350,000 plus money for the infrastructure for the charging ports as well. So this is all good news. One thing though also that the rebate requires is that we trade in a bus that's 2010 diesel or older. And I spoke with Greg and he said that the oldest bus we have is a 2010, but I just wanted to confirm that before I move forward any further.
I believe it is. I believe it is, but I think, so basically, I think that if you want, we have a meeting on the 5th, so if you can work with Greg and put that together, then we can discuss it at the next board meeting and vote to move it forward. And so. Well,
I'd like to move forward with the application process. That already was passed at a previous meeting. So I'd like to move forward because I'm running out of time for no other reason, just to get the ball moving. And then we're not voting, accepting this program or buying anything. All we're doing is applying, seeing if we get the money. Then at that point, we'll bring the information, assuming we get approved, then we'll make a decision whether or not to.
Yeah, but it's going to require a signature from the board, so that will have to be approved by the board. So, and they'll want to see it. So that's what I'm saying. If you think you can get the paperwork done by the 5th, which is a week from, it's next week.
I don't think I'll have it done by then. I'll try with Greg. If he can help me. I don't want to push him, but.
We messed the meetings up. I'm sorry. I was thinking we had 2 weeks.
Well, I don't think I'll need a signature for the board for the application.
Well, why don't you check with Greg and let me know before the end of the week so we can, if we can probably just, the board, I don't think will have a problem maybe authorizing signature because it's not that we're buying anything or accepting it, and we can make that motion at the next meeting if we have to. So if you could just let me know, we're going to meet Friday this week, I think.
You and me, yeah.
Yeah, to set up the budget, to set up the agenda. So if you can get that information to us by then. Again, it doesn't have to be completed, just, yeah.
Yep. I also might need some help from Laurie, just so she knows for some of the parts of the application, but I might be reaching out to her. I know she's not busy right now.
She left.
She's not there either. I didn't see her in the picture either. All right.
Bob will talk to her.
Right. So I might just need a little bit of her help. I'll try to do as much as I can without, bothering her. But Greg and I'll work on that.
And that was why we didn't trade the other bus in, because we wanted to keep it in case something like this came about, so.
Did we trade the last one?
No, we have 3 buses now.
Oh, okay, great.
So
get rid of the oldest.
Right, we can get rid of the oldest and still have 2 diesels buses if we need them. Just in case the electric doesn't work.
Oh yeah, or the diesel craps out.
Yeah, more like the electric doesn't work, but anyways.
We have a lot of floods around here.
Huh?
A lot of water.
Okay, is there any questions or any comments for Dwight? Cool. I have no other old business on the agenda. Does anybody else?
This is the dollar amounts.
Right. Okay, if not, let's move into new business. Oh, go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, just want to thank Dwight for his interest and dogged determination on this. Thank you very much.
He shook his head at you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
So new business, we have radon testing. So at the last meeting, Greg was mentioning this, but we, unless we actually warn dollar amounts or that we are going to be voting on expenditures, we didn't vote on it last time. So the amount for the radon testing is the total of $22,355, $6,400 in Wardsboro, and Tracey, as usual, she wants $15,955 for her radon test. Hers has got the gold seal standard.
Again, this is required by the end of June.
Yeah.
And they recommend doing it during the heating season, so the building is closed when they do it. Yep.
So can I get a motion to expend $22,355 for radon testing in the two buildings?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the amount of $22,355 for radon testing for the Dover and Wardsboro school buildings.
Is there a second to Kate's motion?
Second that.
Second.
Mike seconded it. He was quick on the draw. He didn't have to unmute himself. Meredith, are you good with that motion?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So is there any discussion from anybody?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Where are these funds coming from, or is that at the administrator's discretion?
Wherever they have extra money.
That's what I thought. Do they have an answer on that at this point, or not?
It's going to be fund balance, I'm sure. It's wherever extra money is in the budget at the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions? Go ahead, Chad, I'm sorry.
Sorry, struggling to unmute there. Is this, I mean, certainly I'm not begrudging doing this, but is the cost in line? Like, do we have, estimates? I mean, if you look at the average home cost to do this, and, granted, our school buildings are certainly much bigger than the average home. But what, do we have a comparison?
Well, that's something that I would say let us vote on this, and then let's ask Greg just to tell us how he priced this out and where he got the information from.
I can tell you.
Oh.
It comes from an estimate from Fuss & O'Neill. And
Who's doing our PCB
yeah,
stuff?
same company. They've been very responsive on the PCB testing. And so I have a 4-page, or 5-page, 7-page, 12-page. I have a 12-page document for each school, which outlines the stuff that Greg has sent to me from Fuss & O'Neill with the scope of the work and so on and so forth, and how they do sampling and their pricing. So it's all in this document.
I think Chad's question is more, correct me if I'm wrong.
Comparable to other companies.
Did we get 3 bids? Or did we just go to the first company that said radon testing in the yellow pages?
I think he worked with a company that he knew had been working with us closely, and I think this is the bid amount is like at $40,000 now, right? So it doesn't have to legally go to bid.
Right.
No, but as a valid question, I don't know if he reached other people or not. I could ask him that, but
I think, Chad, too, this isn't something that we can get any home inspector to do for an extra $100 on your home inspection. There's some fairly strict requirements, but and so I'm sure there's some reporting requirements, and I think you're going to want somebody specially trained in commercial buildings, to make sure that we're covered. But it's a very good question, so we'll put Greg on the hot seat next time, if that's okay with you guys, or we can ask him to go out and we can vote this down and ask him to go get other competitive bids.
you could also have the motion be up to, and then that way if it ends up being less, then you're...
Well, that would require an amendment to the motion. Well, you know what, we're voting an amount, but not with a company, so I think then, Chad, how about this? If we ask Greg to just get another price, just to confirm it, are you good with that from a comparable company?
Oh, definitely. I think we need to do our due diligence for the sake of the community. And Bob, as you said, it's a company that we were working closely with on the PCBs, and the reputation and comfortability is that Greg has with them is fantastic, and that does say a lot because we put our trust into Greg quite a bit, and as far as I'm concerned, he's not let us down. But I think doing our due diligence is the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? We lost somebody.
Still have your 3 board members. so-
Okay, hearing no other conversation, all those in favor, please signify so by saying aye.
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 It appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. It is a unanimous decision in the affirmative, but you will ask Greg just to
Yep.
see if you can get pricing
Yep.
from another comparable
Excellent.
company. And again, cheaper isn't always better, seldom is good, usually costs you more money in the long run, but that moment in time.
Yep.
Current financials. Kate, do you have the current financials number?
I don't think we've had one in the last 2 weeks, have we?
Really? I get confused because I do Wyndham Central and I do River Valley, so why are people moving all over the
Scott,
place?
he just got out and now
Came
came
in.
back.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess we don't need to do that. And that actually probably should go under old business from now on, Bob. Because it would be, they've already been approved usually by Kate and I. Principals reports, we got your written ones last time. Do you have anything to update other than that little presentation you did earlier? Sure.
I think that the only thing we have is that we are getting our staff together on our last winter activity day to do some community building.
And you
Both of our
had your
schools.
lunch.
We did have our lunch. It was
Did he dress up in a nice tux to
Yes.
serve?
I will say this, there were some paper goods problems with my delivery system. So when I got to Wardsboro, all I had was a box of spoons.
Cool.
But that's better than what happened when I left Wardsboro, left over, got back to my office and realized that I still had all of the paper goods in my car and didn't give them any. So like, they had to figure out what they were doing on their own, and
Please.
Wardsboro staff had only spoons. But the food smelled awesome in my car, and I almost, particularly on the Dover one, I almost just kept coming right by the school and brought the ZD back to central office. But
We actually have it in the freezer to have like several more times.
Yeah.
So
Where did it come from?
it came from the,
Saloon?
no,
Oh, the market?
the market. Yeah.
Cool, Brett. Neat.
Well, thank you for that lunch. That was wonderful. The staff really appreciate it, so.
And we
it was
appreciate
wonderful.
that you guys have had a really tough fall and early winter. Let's just hope it gets better. Let's hope that maybe like starting next week, we have like 60s and sunshine and an early spring.
And I was going to ask, so they mentioned they're going to get the staffs together. Do you know, has that been done since the merger?
Yeah.
It has, okay.
Oh, yeah. They several times they did some stuff together. I think they went to some program, they did some busing, transportation. They went, I forget what.
Okay.
Well, you may remember, didn't you?
I
Ben?
haven't done anything since I've been here.
Oh, I know that they
you've
set
been here
something
since-
up.
2020,
2020.
2019.
Maybe it was pre-COVID, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
it
know, I
probably
never
was
thought of that.
pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So
I'm
anyway, so it's been a
pretty
while.
sure.
It's
But
kinda
no,
cool.
that's really cool. They try to get all the students together, and then did some team building exercises or some stuff. I think it'd be really cool if we could do something like that too, so that the students that are doing the IB here could see a STEAM
Yes.
project.
Exactly what we're
And then
thinking.
see, oh, good, and then the STEAM kids get to see an IB project. Sorry, guys, we're having a little sidebar here. Did you have anything else, Donna?
No, I want to thank Tracey too, because we are going to be utilizing the bus for a field trip. And that worked out really well, so thank you for working with us there.
Well, and again, remember, there's no Dover School or Wardsboro School anymore, it's River Valley, so it's a River Valley bus. It just happens to be here because we can't find enough bus drivers to do the West River one. You got anything else for an update from you?
No, I think you mentioned the SU met last week and had a productive meeting, and policy group got together and gave me some direction, and yeah, we are plowing forward with budgets across the SU, and I'm just everything new, every day is a new learning experience for me. So some of them are wacky than others, but yeah, I'm learning a ton and still having a blast. So.
And we don't have any huge staffing issues like we did for a while because you
Nope.
got, Wyndham is all set for a little bit.
Yep.
Wardsboro's set for a little bit. How's your new person working out?
Wonderful.
Good.
Miss Lindsay's doing a great job. Check
Excellent.
in with her often. That's my priority for this month.
Cool. You don't have any new people.
No, but we have a long-term sub now for pre-K, which came in at the 11th hour.
Nice.
And she's going to be lovely. And we had someone apply and we hired for the 4th grade math teacher position. So we're
Okay.
good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We actually found people to hire.
Yeah.
Maybe the labor market's changing.
Maybe.
Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed. Any other new business? Kate, you all set? Dwight? Chad, you all good?
I'm all set, thank you.
Laura? I can't see if she's giving me the thumbs up or the thumbs down.
There's a finger involved.
I'm all set
in the middle.
for right now.
It's in the middle.
This is new business.
Yeah.
Just, sorry to not give you a heads up on this, but Bob and board members, I think you're probably getting action alerts on the after-school funding issue.
Yep.
So it would be helpful to explain, I think, make sure all of your board members, administrators, and program deliverers understand what's going on, because they are all being lobbied to lobby legislators.
Yep.
And so I just think it would be important to help people understand what's going on there. So, and the difference is, for those that don't know, whether or not the money goes through the LEAs or not.
Or direct to
And,
the program.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so there's a change that's being pushed to allow for ed fund money to go to, I guess, nonprofits and privates who may want
That's-
to run their own
that's right.
after-school programming, rather than straight to the LEAs for public school after-school programs.
So when Act 60 came down the pike, in this room, we had Peter Shumlin, a huge proponent of it, who was a senator out of Putney at the time. And we had a gentleman named Buzzy Buswell, who used to run a little taxi service over here. And Buzzy said, this is gonna be just like the transportation fund. You guys are gonna rate it all the time and use it for other things. And Shumlin stood right here and said, Buzzy, I promise you that we're gonna write into the law that if any money is taken out of the education fund other than direct payments to supervisory unions or school districts, it will automatically shut down Act 60 and it'll go away. And every year, they've taken money out of the ed fund to fund other things, which are all really good, important items, but again, and then they also say, oh, not only that though, but we're gonna not use that clause. And when I was on this coalition of municipalities, I actually argued that we should fight it one time because they forgot to change the law and the legislature, added an amendment to something. So it's a little frustrating that it was supposed to be meant for one thing and it goes everywhere else.
Yeah, and I think, and the other challenge that you guys just saw, you just voted on approving, $22,000 for radon testing. And the PCB stuff, we'll see how that all plays out as far as funding goes, but there's a lot of demands for this money. And, obviously, the bulk of it goes to direct instruction of kids, right? But some of it doesn't, and some of it goes to things like this that we have to do. And when the tax rates keep going up and the ed fund keeps getting spread out more thinly, like that's part of the challenge, to keep that directed towards education in public schools. So, yeah, so I got that email from the after-school, whatever, lobbying group, and when I read it, I was like, oh, they're trying to help after-school programming. I like after-school programming. Then I read the email, I was like, wait a minute, they're trying to do what? That doesn't make sense. So I forwarded it to Laura, and Emily was like, hey, can you guys take a peek at this for me? So yeah, anyway, so that is going on. So people, if you want to prevent that from happening, you should get active with your legislators to stop that.
Call our senators and Go ahead, Laura.
So I would just add one more thing, which is there are existing partnerships with nonprofits and private institutions through the LEAs that happen in the state of Vermont that would be expected to continue happening, partnerships with nonprofits and privates through LEAs, new partnerships is something that is possible. It's just a matter of where the accountability starts, which actually starts to become a civil rights issue as well. And so just making sure that folks are really clear on what they're being asked. This is also being framed appallingly as a
Equity issue.
discrimination, as an equity issue, which is appalling. But I would just make sure, Bob, because I'm hearing unexpectedly from some people that all of your administrators and boards and after-school programs are aware of kind of the dynamic here.
You're hearing that they are or are not?
They may not really understand what's going
Right.
on here, so I'm hearing from unexpected folks.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay, I'll shoot something out to people. Yep.
thanks.
Okay, is there any other new business? I think Laura was last, Mike. You all set? Okay, consent agenda. So we have two sets of minutes. The December 18th, 2023, seems like years ago. And January 8th, it was last year. January 8th of this year. Is there any comments? We don't have to, if everybody's good, we'll just accept them by unanimous consent. I see thumbs up from Kate. Dwight, you're good. Mike's good. Chad, you all set, and Laura?
Yep, also.
Cool. I have no correspondence, right?
No, if you want to talk about this.
Yeah, so I'm gonna skip a little bit because we have an executive session. So if people want to leave and not come back,
Although there will probably be action coming out of that. Right?
there'll be a decision, I'm sure, after executive session. So we have February 5th as our next meeting. The meeting after that, which should be in Wardsboro, would be, at Wardsboro. The meeting after that is, again, President's Day, Washington's birthday, whatever the holiday is called nowadays. So, and it's also vacation week, and then the week after that is the week before town meeting, I believe. So when do we want to meet? So I don't know if we can make a decision today, but it's hard to get people in here during vacation week because our administrators are usually gone because it's their vacation time. And Bob, I'm sure there'll be a Celtics game or a Bruins game or some game that week. So
I'll miss the cookies, but that's.
think about when we can meet again, and maybe we can meet on a different day of the week or something. But we will have to get budget done and voted on, and the agenda voted on, because if we're meeting at the end of April, we got to have it all ready by the beginning of March. And then it's always hard to meet, the Monday before town meeting too. So our next few meetings may be a little skewed. So just think about it, let us know. Go ahead, Dwight.
So do we have to meet next Monday, or can we move that to the 12th, or you think that's important to meet?
Well, I think we're gonna have to give Laurie, not Laura, some direction on the budget. So I think it would be important to meet. Maybe we meet the 5th and the 12th, and we can, on the 5th, we can vote a budget, and then on the 12th, we can vote the agenda.
Maybe.
I don't know what people think.
I just wanted to make sure we were 2 weeks in a row, but if it's important, that makes sense. I may not be able to make it, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to give Laurie direction to change anything, then you'd want to
Have
do
a
that sooner
meeting.
rather than later. Yeah.
Right, but usually too,
Okay.
because the other thing is, I can't remember the timeline, but I'm pretty sure it's sometime in the beginning of March, because we'll also have to sign an agenda.
The
And-
articles, yeah.
The articles, the agenda, and we'll also have to, those people that may want to run for a board position will need to get petitions filled out too. So
Okay.
let's plan on the
Sounds good.
5th.
I have,
Richard?
Hang on a second, Laura.
I have mid-March.
Okay, so we have mid-March, so we can meet on the 5th, and if we're in pretty good shape, we could, but on, one of the early meetings in March, we'd have to have the articles all done and ready to sign. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to hop off, but can you remind me who is up this year?
I think Kate and I, right? Or Dwight and I.
Yeah, you and I are on the same kind of schedule.
We got elected together.
That's right. We've been through it together. It's me and Rich.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
And I'm
Have a good night.
gonna pick up a couple of petitions, Dwight, so that we can, because we gotta still have the 60 signatures. That didn't change.
I don't know if I know 60 people. All right, let's see how we do.
Okay. Okay, so definitely February 5th, 6 o'clock in Wardsboro. And please, folks, don't come, because if Donna makes cookies, there's more for Mike and I. Live. Okay, so we have an executive session on a personnel contractual issue.
Would you like a motion?
Oh, I would love a motion.
Okay, I would like to make a motion. I move.
It's for you guys to go, by the way. No, you can stay.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I move to find that a premature general public knowledge will clearly place the board at a substantial disadvantage.
Do I have a second to that, Mike?
Second that.
Mike seconds it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Bye.
Oh, Laura's still here. It appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. It is. Go ahead, Kate.
I motion to enter executive session under 1 BSA S 313A1 for the purpose of discussing contracts with employees.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
Oh, I'm going to give it to Mike so it's easier for Meredith to do the minutes. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It appears to be a unanimous.
Aye.
Oh, now it is a unanimous decision in the affirmative. It is. So at 7:42, we're in executive session. Okay, so we're coming out of executive session at 7:50 p.m. So would anybody like to make a motion?
I can make the motion. I would like to motion that we authorize the chair to sign a memorandum of understanding for the longevity bonus.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second that.
I'll second.
Okay, Mike seconded it first. He doesn't have to unmute himself.
Quick. It's all about speed.
It's all about speed, he said. Chad, you're gonna have to practice a little bit, okay? Motion to approve the memorandum of understanding on the longevity bonus has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify so by saying aye.
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 It appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. It is. I will sign and turn it over to Bob. I think, folks, that there's no other business to come before the board. I don't know what time the Celtics start, but hopefully
We're down.
they're down already.
They're recorded.
Oh. What would be the next motion we
It's
could
early.
hear?
Motion to adjourn.
Mike moved to adjourn, second. Anybody?
Hey,
Thank you, Kate. All those in favor say aye.
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 We're adjourned at like 7:52. Thank you, everybody. Good meeting, a lot accomplished tonight.